Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny Tunes. It's Destiny here. So with it being Pride Month, I wanted to do my part as an ally to make a few videos dedicated to LGBT+ representation that we've seen in animation, whether it be good or bad. In today's video, I want to talk about two episodes from the series The Proud Family and The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. Now, when it comes to the Proud Family, I kind of view it in the same way that I view Tyler Perry in his films. They provide a sense of representation for the Black community while simultaneously painting us in a negative light. The Proud Family by no means is a perfect series, and as I get older, I start to realize that there are more things that I dislike about this series than I enjoy about it. From the colorism, stereotypes, and Black people degrading other Black people. This is a series that I feel iffy about sharing with my future children someday. Is that to say that there haven't been a ton of important messages within this series? Absolutely not, because this series does also provide a perspective of the world that Black youth and adults alike can relate to, but I feel like it can also be harmful to see the very things that limit us as people being used as character tropes or as comedic punchlines. Although there are many things that I dislike about this series, I will never go as far as to say that it didn't try its best to teach its young audience the important lessons like racism, loving yourself, and the topic of today's video, homophobia. There are two instances of this series trying to fight against homophobia that I remember clear as day, one coming from the original Proud Family series and the other from the more recent adaptation, The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. In the episode titled Who You Callin' a Sissy, we witness the hardships that the character Michael Collins has had to deal with for being different. Now, I didn't really understand the premise of this episode considering the fact that Michael has been an active part of the friend group leading up to this point, so why would it be in this episode specifically that people would be pointing out his differences? I try not to think too much about it, but this didn't really make that much sense to me. The bullying towards Michael starts when pre-made assumptions are made towards him based off of his appearance, attitude, and interest. When Michael is invited to play basketball with the guys, they immediately shrug him off, assuming that he wouldn't be as skilled as everyone else because he is quote-unquote different. Michael ends up doing really well in basketball, which leads to everyone being quite shocked, and unfortunately, after beating the boys, one of them ends up spewing hateful words towards Michael, calling him a sissy. I'm not exactly sure how commonly used the term sissy is nowadays because I don't hear it as often as I did growing up, but in case you aren't familiar with this term, sissy is a word used in a derogatory way. It was a way that people would belittle men who they felt weren't masculine in a traditional sense or had interests that were seen as more feminine. Words like sissy and punk were heavily used in the Black community and were rooted in homophobia. Calling someone a punk or a sissy was interchangeable with the word gay, and unfortunately these words are starting to resurface again and become more popularized on social media. Individuals with hobbies that cross over the line of what is traditionally acceptable for their gender have always been ridiculed by the masses. I never quite understood why even things like hobbies, let alone colors, became gender coded in the first place. Now, the bullying that Michael receives due to his more feminine nature does go beyond name-calling when we see Penny and her friends rescuing Michael after he's locked in the girls' bathroom. We also see La Cienega end up withdrawing from being his date to the dance after all of the bullying that he's been receiving. And before moving on, can I just point out the fact that I don't understand why this group of friends continues to allow a person like La Cienega to hang out around them when she does nothing but consistently belittle everyone around her and bullying them. Seeing the way that this character gets to treat people like garbage and continue to be rewarded with friendship definitely does send out a weird message, but again, the Proud Family does a lot of questionable things and I could honestly sit here and talk about it like all day. The toxicity of this friend group is just not okay, nor is it healthy. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. Michael's locker also ends up getting vandalized with the word sissy, and by this point in the episode, I was fully expecting Michael to completely lash out under the weight of the bullying that's been going on, but he continues to bottle it up and keeps pushing on throughout the day. Now, another big element of this episode was talking about your feelings before they end up exploding into something that you can't take back. Penny did try her best to get Michael to talk about the way that he'd been feeling about the consistent bullying, but he continued to tell her that he was fine and that it was no big deal. All of those negative feelings that Michael was having ended up becoming manifested into a literal monster, where he then went and tried to get revenge against all of the people who wronged him. This episode always rubbed me the wrong way because I feel like everyone within this episode was forgiven far too easy, and like, I understand that it's a children's show, it isn't a place that you go looking for reality, but the fact of the matter is these kids were being bullies, and it would have been really nice to see an adult step in and give them a good talking to at any point throughout the episode. The least that they could have done was have someone intervene about the actual bullying before it got to the point where the victim of the episode ended up being the one who was sort of the bad guy. Michael finally opening up about being ridiculed for being himself was really sad to hear, especially considering the fact that there are so many people out in the real world who have had the same moments where they have to explain that they aren't weird or different for simply being who they are. The fact that Michael is a really good fashion designer, skilled basketball player, good student, and kind friend is overlooked by the fact that people see him as too feminine goes to show just how backwards our society truly is. Michael's character in the Proud family was never confirmed to be gay, but I feel like the implications were definitely there. It wouldn't be until the reboot that it would be confirmed that Michael Collins is in fact part of the LGBT+ community. This episode definitely felt like a turning point for Michael's character. Not only was he accepted by those around him, but it was also his chance to open up and be true to himself. This episode opened up the door for the character we have today, a Michael Collins who is completely comfortable with who he is and officially is the first openly gay male character on Disney Channel. So now we go almost 20 years into the future with the Proud family louder and prouder, where unfortunately this series hasn't really gotten any better with all of the things that I disliked about the original series. Literally in the episode that I'm going to be talking about today, there was a line where one of the characters was calling another character nappy-headed as an insult. Like, we couldn't think of anything else. But anyway, Father Figures was another episode focusing on homophobia, and honestly, I don't know how I feel about this one either. Instead of bullying a character for being different, this episode focused on bullying a set of siblings because they have two fathers. Now, of course, all of the drama starts in this episode when Dejanay goes against Penny's wishes to keep Maya and KG's business private and decides to air everything out on social media. Again, I absolutely hate half of the characters in this series, Dejanay being one of them. I hate the way that they wrote her character, and I will honestly never forgive them for making her one of the worst friends in animation ever. We quickly see the internet sharing their opinions, both positive and negative, about something that doesn't pertain to them at all. With everyone learning about their family situation, Maya and KG are faced with the unwanted attention from supportive students as well as bullies who are quick to start calling the siblings names as well as vandalizing their lockers. The same thing that we saw in the episode with Michael, except this time instead of derogatory terms, they leave a message saying your family don't belong here. This sort of word usage has been used in so many different ways to outcast marginalized groups of people based on things like race, sexual orientation, disabilities, etc. I couldn't even imagine seeing something like this being said about me or my family. Like, the amount of sadness and fear that would be looming over me would be insane. The fact that things like this are said daily to people in the real world just goes to show how little progress our country truly has been making. When I think that this episode can't get any worse for Maya and KG, the entire group of friends, excluding Penny and Michael, completely turned their back on Maya and KG because literally every person in this friend group's father is homophobic, which again is absolutely insane to me. I was really hoping that maybe Oscar wouldn't have been homophobic, but then again, this is a character who has been openly sexist and has been seen discriminating against other people, so I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. The fact that all of the women in the household seem to be against Oscar's way of thinking did upset me, because why in the world are we married to someone who's homophobic when we're not homophobic? It makes zero sense to me. But going back to the scene of everyone turning their backs on Maya and KG, Penny tries to comfort the siblings by making a joke about kids who only have one parent or no parents at all, which isn't received well by KG, who steps up and confronts Penny about these kind of jokes not being funny, especially when the siblings themselves were once orphans before being adopted by their fathers. I really like the fact that this was included in the episode, considering the fact that jokes about kids not having a father is something that was really big when I was younger. Like, why are we making fun of kids for their parents' horrible decisions? Okay, so moving on. The fact that the family inviting everyone over for gumbo was the thing that somehow made everyone not homophobic is actually insane to me. Like, did we not think that there was a possibility that these were actual good people before we decided to judge them? Just like in the first episode, there's no actual conversation being had in these episodes about the bullying that was going on or the steps to an actual solution. I know that these are just cartoon shows and it doesn't have to be that deep, but when we're making content that is made for impressionable minds, if you're going to have an episode that tries to call out homophobia, the least you can do is try to explain why these sort of things are wrong in the first place. It's another situation where the victims are responsible for being the bigger people in situations that harm them physically and emotionally. It would have been really nice to see the other characters have to work towards being forgiven and at least display that they have some sort of understanding of why being homophobic is harmful. I appreciate the fact that these series did try their best to make episodes highlighting homophobia, both in the early 2000s as well as current day. One thing about the Proud family that I will always give them props for is the amount of representation for all kinds of people within the series. When it came to talking about people of different cultural backgrounds, financial situations, ethnicities, and sexual orientations, they made sure that everyone got their time in the spotlight, even if it could have been done a little better. Episodes like these are important because not only do they serve as a form of representation for people who might be dealing with similar struggles, but also for the people who want to know what and what not to do when it comes to people who live a different lifestyle than theirs. Pride Month is a time for celebrating who you are, and for allies it should be a time to educate ourselves on how to support those around us. In a world that can be so unaccepting, try to be someone like Penny Proud who stands by everyone she meets. But what do you think about these episodes? Do you think that there are things they could have done better? Do you think that they were top notch? Let me know down in the comments below. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, let me know that you did by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video in the future. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!